Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 53rd session of Beyond Research, where curiosity meets conversation. We are honored to have with us Miss Jhillika Trisal as our distinguished speaker for the day. Ms. Trisal is a neuroscience researcher and social entrepreneur who works at the intersection of assistive technology and inclusive education. She is the co founder and CEO of Cognitii, a pioneering startup building India's first AI and human infrastructure layer for special needs education. Her work is dedicated to making personalized, gamified, and standardized learning support accessible to children with developmental and intellectual disabilities, particularly in low resource settings and at scale. Cognitive solutions are designed to integrate seamlessly with India's public education systems, non-profit initiatives, and inclusive private schools, aligning closely with national mandates for disability and education. Before founding Cognitii, Ms. Trisal contributed to research at leading institutions such as DBT in STEM and Emory University and played a key role in building Project Encephalon, India's largest neuroscience education nonprofit, where she led fundraising and innovation efforts. Beyond Cognitive, she is actively involved in funding decentralized science in women's health and longevity at Athena DAO, supporting early stage startups and researchers through innovative IP NFT token models. So please join me in warmly welcoming Ms. Jhillika Trisal as she shares her expertise and vision with us today.
Thank you so much for the very kind introduction. It's a very big word that I'll have to live up to. So I'll try my best for that. Hi everybody, it's very nice to see you all. I mean, I'd really appreciate if some of you could turn on your cameras if that's not an issue, so that the session sounds a little interactive. I don't like to talk to blind screens, black screens. So I would really appreciate that. Of course, no pressure, but it would be better. I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Is the slide deck visible?
Sorry, ma'am?
Is the slide deck visible?
Yeah, ma'am. The first slide we can see.
Sure. So I'll be talking about how I transitioned from academia to startups and venture investing. And the core idea behind this talk is to let you guys understand that you can very much love science and still not be in academia. I mean, you can progress as a scientist, but the way of the way you progress can be very non-linear in the ways you might have never thought. The objective of this talk is to make you understand that there are many ways beyond academia to make your mark in science, and I'm quite far from that, but having seen people on this journey and being on this journey myself, I would just like to share a few snippets from what I've learned, and I'm still figuring it out, but some experience can help you to figure out your own. So here I'll go. So as Prati said, I run a company called Cognitii. We're building like India's first hybrid infrastructure layer for special needs education in India. We typically cater to children who have intellectual and developmental disabilities like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and intellectual disabilities. And as Prati said, I'm also involved in venture investing through Athena DAO. We fund early stage women's health and longevity startups, and also academic research that has very high translational potential, which can, you know, which has the potential to spin off into promising startups with viable IP potential through an IP NFT model. So that's what I do by the day. And let me just walk you through how it all started and why neuroscience in particular. So, Act One. I mean, I like to think of my life as a story, as a book, you know, where there are certain acts and there are certain chapters. Of course, each chapter has its own significance in shaping my journey, and I'd like to share that. So the very first act of the story is the girl who fell in love with the brain. I like to call myself that. And I mean, it was started from the very beginning, but like since I was in school, but naturally because we are in India and there are not a lot of neuroscience education avenues when you are like in high school or your undergrad. So I tried to do random courses, join neuroscience collectives in the US, get some exposure to what possibly, what a career in neuroscience could possibly look like. And that was also like I took physics, chemistry, and biology in my 11th grade. I never wanted to be a doctor, but I loved biology so much that I really wanted to, get into this line altogether. And I was pretty clear that I wanted to do research. Naturally, not a lot of avenues back then, but I wanted to do something. I mean, the ethos around studying biology was to study something that would, impact a lot of people at scale, like a millions of people at scale. And biology seemed like the most viable avenue. And already I had an interest in healthcare and in how the body works, how natural systems work. So naturally, biology was a very natural calling that came to me, and I ended up studying that. So, I went to Shulini University for my undergrad. I started in 2019. I did a BTech there in biotechnology. Because again, like my parents wanted me to do something technical. They were not cool with me doing a BSc. They're like, you want to study biology, but you're going to study an engineering degree. I'm like, fine, I'll do it. So I went to Shulini University. It's a very pretty university nestled in the Shivaliks in Lower Himachal Pradesh in Solan. So that's where I studied biotechnology, and that was my very first exposure to research, like proper academic research. That was like my first exposure. I remember, like 2 3 months into joining college, I remember joining a redox biology lab. It was led by a zoology professor in my university, and they worked on redox biology per se, how redox reactions affect aging in the human body. So it was an interesting time where there was not a lot of pressure on me because already PIs don't expect a lot from first year kids. So I just went to that lab, spoke with people, joined myself in learning small little techniques like agarostil electrophoresis or observing the PCR or very basic stuff. Like I remember one week just you know having fun working with the pipette. I mean this is how naive I was, and this was how there was no pressure to excel at that point in time. I mean, this professor was like, try here for 3 months. If you like it, we'll see later. So there was no pressure, and that gave me a lot of liberty to explore and what I genuinely like. I wrote a review paper with him. I worked with the students. They used to make me read papers. They used to make me do small little experiments with them. They would explain why they were doing it, and I genuinely, I mean, I did not like redox biology per se, but I really loved the thought process that went behind designing experiments and, figuring out with your next steps, troubleshooting if things don't go right. And everything associated with the research design process was something that was intriguing me. So, after 3 months, I didn't continue with that lab, but I knew that, research is something I really want to do. And that this lab, like the redox biology lab, had an Alzheimer's disease aspect to it. Probably that is why I really liked working there. So it was like how peroxisome redox reactions affect Alzheimer's disease pathogenesis. It was like around that topic. So there was a bit of neuroscience for me to get hooked. Like the only neuroscience exposure I had before college was biology and psychology lessons. I had psychology in grade 11 and 12, so that was the only close to neuroscience experience I had. But finally, I could see some of it come live in college, and I really loved doing research genuinely. So I ended up finding research internships which aligned a little more with my interests because again, neuroscience is not like very prevalent in the undergrad education systems. Not a lot of universities in India have like neuroscience research labs, at least at the undergrad level. So there were. And in my college, there was this one research lab which did neuroscience work, but they only took kids from their department, like, older students, like MSc, PhD students. I had no chance there. But yeah, I mean, in the first labs I worked in, the very first lab I formally started working in was a multi-drug resistance lab. And honestly, I worked there for learning the process, learning how to do research and how to cultivate patients to deliver high quality work. I think that is what I really learned out of my tenure there. And then I started to look for internships. Like the very first internship I remember I got in March 2020 was in IIT Indore at a stem cell biology lab. And I was like, okay, nice. I will go to an IIT, and like private university get very wowed by when there's an IIT coming in. So yeah, it was the same situation with me. I thought that I will get to do something very cool there. But then COVID came. It like kind of blocked all internship aspirations every student in my batch had. So we had to stay home that summer. But then an opportunity at Iowa State University came in that there are a few PhD students running projects in bioinformatics. Why don't we join? And I knew that COVID was not going anytime soon back in August or September 2020. So I knew that something virtual is the only way to move forward on this path. I ended up joining that, and I remember doing a project on building a machine learning algorithm which could predict the sulfate and hematopoietic stem cells. And that was something I had no idea about because coding. I mean, I did very basic level of coding in high school, and one coding course to pass my first semester in BTech. Probably that was the only coding I did. So I had to learn Python. I had to learn RNA-seq. Like it was a project that was completely outside my comfort zone. And honestly, I hated going to classes. This is no encouragement, honestly, to not go for your classes and all. But I just never liked to go to classes. So this project kept me very busy because everything I was doing in this project, every paradigm that we were applying, and I was in my first year. I mean, every paradigm that we were applying was like way outside of my comfort zone. मैंने सुना भी नहीं था वो सब कुछ. So like I had to literally start from scratch, learn the entire thing. The project took 11 months for me to complete, but it was worth it. It was honestly everything of that project was worth it. I had a very good mentor. We had a very good rapport with him. So you know he really supported me. He really entertained all of my very dumb questions, and like used to answer my emails at the oddest hours because this person worked in Iowa in the United States, and I was in India, so naturally there was a very huge time gap of 10.5 hours. So the time when I would typically work would be the time when it would be pretty late out there in the US. But he was always very kind to take my queries and answer it with utmost grace and humility. Very grateful for that experience. And like when my second year came in 2021, like second year summer, I was very lucky. I lucked out actually. I got an internship at Emory University. I got the summer undergraduate research fellowship there. I applied at a bunch of institutes in Europe, in US, in India, but Emory was kind enough to take me. And that was where I worked at a behavioral neuroscience lab. It was led by Dr. Malvika Murugan. He is working on social neuroscience, like what brain substrates. Brain substrates are basically the parts of the brain. I mean, substrates is just a very neurosciencey jargon, but the brain substrates that were responsible for facilitating social recognition in mice and how potential dysfunctions could lead to certain psychiatric disorders. I mean, that was the research subject of the lab. And again, behavioral neuroscience totally out of my comfort zone. Did not know a word of it. I remember, like, working with Dr. Murugan on analyzing calcium imaging data, like, and like running behavioral assays on mice, analyzing what kind of social behavior and solitary behaviors they exhibited. Social behavior is when, like, more than two, like, more than one mouse is there and, they are, they're interacting with each other. That's social behavior. And solitary behavior is when you're alone. So that I ran a couple of behavioral assays. I learned MATLAB. I learned how to analyze calcium imaging data, present my work more systematically. I mean, that was the thing that I was doing at 3 months at Emory. Uh, this stint really gave me the confidence to be in the neuroscience field in the long term. This was like I had a good grad school mentor. I mean, again, I'll be very honest, why I think I also was able to do things in academia was because I met the right people at the right time. I'm being very honest. I think, having support of the right mentors who encourage you and, uplift you, I think that is very important. And I've been very lucky to get that support always. I mean, so yeah, Emory gave me the confidence to stay in neuroscience in the long haul. That, I knew that I wanted to, do something in this field only. I kept on working with my lab at Shulini, like, the MDR lab I worked there. I was learning small little things. I was writing review papers. I was learning experiments. I was running assays, biochemical assays against certain bacterial strains. It was fun, but again, neuroscience gave me a kick. That work was just like, okay, it was a nice way to not go to class. I could tell the teacher I had a lab, I had experiments in the lab, I had things to do. So it was a lovely way to, just stay away from my classes. So yeah, I mean, in third year, summer fast forward 2022, I work at DBT in STEM. I worked under Dr. Bhavna Muralidharan. I worked at a neurodevelopment lab this time. So this work was at the juncture of neuroscience and stem cell biology, understanding how chromatin remodeling can affect neurodevelopment per se, and how potential dysfunctions could lead to autism, ADHD, dyslexia, all of these disorders, neurodevelopmental conditions. And I mean, that was the most fun stint I've ever had in neuroscience. And that, like, this was like, Emory was like, Emory gave me the confidence to stay in neuroscience. InSTEM gave me the confidence to stay on the development neuroscience path. So that is where evolution happened. I remember I worked with stem cells. I used to work on neural stem cells. I used to, like, study differentiation paradigms, how neural stem cells grow under different media and all of that. We were also, like, there was a side project I was part of. I was not allowed to do it because again I did not have I have enough stem cell certifications and I did not have enough time to stay there to get those. But we were also working on, modeling stem cells for psychiatric disorders to understand their pathology and potentially develop more targeted treatment. So it was a very, very interesting stint, and that work I truly felt in my bones had translational potential, and that's what attracted me more towards science, like, making science more utilitarian, making it more accessible for people, getting the stuff that happens in the lab outside on the shelf, on the market shelf, and where it becomes more accessible. I think translational potential was what was inspiring me to get into this field, and through my stint at InSTEM, I found it. I thought that, okay, yeah, science needs to have some impact. All the other projects I did were very fundamental research oriented projects. But this project showed me that, this research can see the light of the day. So, well, yeah, then on the sides, I was also running Project Encephalon with a bunch of very fantastic, talented students. I mean, they were at all levels. Some of them were undergrads, some of them were medical students, masters, PhD students. We came up with this organization in 2020 during the COVID lockdown only, when people were losing on to in-person opportunities. We thought, let's bring some kind of neuroscience education at people's home, at the comfort of their homes, their phones, or whatever. So we started with a few journal clubs, and they were pretty similar to the format that you guys are following. Every Friday, Saturday, we would have some speaker or scientist coming in. They would, pick up a paper from their own research, or probably something allied with their own research fields, and they would just dissect it, and it would be a very interactive discussion. We started with that. But then we saw, like, during COVID, we were getting like amazing turnouts, like 150, 200 people were showing up at an odd evening, and I made a lot of friends there. I also, like, I also owe like a lot of relationship building in the neuroscience ecosystem because of Project Encephalon. And over there, mostly my work started as an ops person there. I used to take care of ops and event management very early on. I joined as a DCO there, deputy CO. I joined, but then, like, I got into internationalizing their initiatives. But then they got somebody in international, so, and Project Encephalon, as it was growing, they needed funds. So they're like, okay, we need somebody to exclusively just raise funds for us, write grants, and ensure what's the funding landscape out there. How can we scale these and get more money through donors, through grants, through sponsorships, these things. Like, we were a non-profit, so again, I mean, role also, I stayed in Project Ansible until November of last year. So yeah, I mean, now I'm sharing for this team on the side, but yeah, I mean, this was again a very, very transformative experience I had. Like, this thing truly showed me how, the power of community, the very soft aspects of, what do I say, the soft aspects of building relationships, building your career, and, having the right people around you at the right time to guide you to take right decisions. I think that was what PE did. I mean, I still have a very, very good friends from PE. Some of the people I confide in a lot, even after I'm not into the field that those guys are into. But it really helped me cultivate meaningful relationships and get inspired because everybody out there was doing such fabulous work in that team. So it was like positive peer pressure in the nicest way possible, in the most constructive way possible. That was what my stint at Project Principal on was like. So yeah, I mean, this was all like what I did in neuroscience. Now, throughout these 4 years that I just shared with you about, I was loving the lab, but I was not liking the system around it because, like, I I mean, these are pictures of like. There was a lot to it, but there's just a few of my favorite pictures. Like I remember this picture I took. This was the first mouse brain I ever dissected, and this is like a developing mouse brain at embryonic age 13.5 days. These are immunostain neural stem cells on the right. There are a few papers I wrote during my undergrad. This was like the picture at the bottom is a snowman we made out of the ice where we thaw all of those small little chemicals we bring before the experiment. This was a snowman, a lab senior made it. And we used the 50 ml Falcon cap as a cap for it, and we got posted to make these eyes and a small muffler. I think there was a small piece of cloth lying there, and we just made it as a muffler. So yeah, we had fun also. I still again I'll say that my academic stint gave me some of the best friends that I have today, and definitely it polished my work ethic. It made me show up with rigor and balance my academics with this. I mean, I really had a lot of fun doing this, but again, I always used to feel about like the next line. I was loving my work, but I would call academia as a leaky pipeline of impact. Where I would do research, I would write papers, it would get cited some n number of times. Then the citation loop would go on because in academia, your impact is measured in terms of how many times your papers get cited, or what is your AS index, or God knows what. Again, they're very dead numbers. I mean, they don't tell you the story behind it. I mean, problem kya hai? This research will most likely never reach to the people who need it the most. And that is where I used to get a bit disillusioned because my core ethos around studying biology was to impact a lot of people at the same time, impact a lot of people at scale. Magar, like in academia, that impact was nowhere to be found. Even if I would study about some topic, it like for it to take some meaningful form, where it's reaching people, it would take 25 years, 30 years most likely. So I was not liking the system around which academia was built. I mean, it was months and years of brilliant work that would just stay grounded in a paper, and it would never really go out there. And all that knowledge, and still, it just waits. And like that was what was, something towards the latter part of my third year. I used to think about it quite a bit. Where is the translation? What is the impact of my work? Actually, you can't expect it at such early stages of your career, but I often thought that even the senior researchers who are working on it, when is the impact going to come? When will they see that their work saw the light of the day? Because I didn't want my work to just be locked in PubMed or in Elsewhere, where people would read my papers, they would cite it in their papers, and that is my only metric of staying happy in life. That was not something I was very comfortable doing. Naturally, a career in academia is very hard, and I do not discount the intensity of an academic career, but the impact and the system was probably not suiting what I really wanted in the long term, and that's why I made this leaky pipeline of impact for you guys to show that. That was my dissatisfaction. That was, something I did not want to continue with. But honestly, the system is not broken, it's just built a certain way. And I mean, I was doing pretty well, honestly. I post my undergrad, I wanted to ended up, I wanted to, do a PhD. Usse pehle I wanted to do an RA for 2 years because I lost onto a lot of wet lab experience going to COVID. Like we lost 2 years of wet lab experience. So I really wanted to get some more wet lab experience, get some more developmental neuroscience focused experience after in STEM. So I wanted to be an RA for 2 years and probably figure out what really comes later. Most likely that was a PhD, what I was thinking. But then comes a phase of reflection, and that's the very messy middle that I came across. After I came back from STEM, during the third year of my college, it was October of 2022, and I was due to graduate in June 2020. My thesis advisor, the MDR lab I used to work at, so that person was the person I was supposed to write my thesis with because our university did not allow external dissertations. So I had to do it with that professor only. That professor suddenly left the university. No closure, nothing. Just people are telling us this person has left. Figure out what you have to do. I had less than 6 months to graduate because we had 2 weeks, 2 months of winter break. तो मतलब अगर 8 महीने भी थे तो 2 महीने तो गए उसमें. We had I had 6 months and I done all the preliminary analysis, but there was a lot of experimental stuff I still had to do, and this guy was nowhere to be seen. This guy left without telling us, क्या करना है, क्या होना है. The university dean told me that you have to find another guide, switch to an easier project, write a review paper or something. But that was not fitting well with my ambitions around the thesis. I wanted to genuinely, I mean, I had no plans of publishing the work, but definitely I wanted to do something research oriented and not write a review paper, not just reiterating what others have written. Right. So I was naturally very disillusioned. I didn't know what to do. And my sole reason of going to college was over. It was over. I mean, I did not like going to my classes. My friends were even worse than I was. I mean, none of us liked to attend classes. So all of us had some or the other engagements, say, involved in. So classes were the last priority we had. तो मतलब आई वाज लाइक यार अब क्या करूं मैं. तो अक्टूबर से दिसंबर तक मैंने स्कूल में सिर्फ मजे करे हैं. मैंने कोई नहीं किया because at that stage also no guy was ready to take me at such a later stage. They're like, yeah, the students that we have, they've already done quite a bit. I mean, we'll have to start with zero with you. I mean, we don't know what to do. So it was a messy situation I was in. I was genuinely very upset. I was I lost all motivation to go to classes or just be involved in any kind of academic activities. So my college was in Himachal, so it was a nice 2 months for me to just roam around in the state and just have fun. This is no encouragement for anyone to miss their classes or anything, but this is what I did. As I said, I'm not going to preach anything to you. I'm just going to tell you what I did, and probably some learnings from what I did can help you figure out your path. Okay, I'm not here preaching anything. I'm just sharing my story. So, like, I spend my time. I used to go to some random town in Himachal. Like that's what I did. Or I would just hang out with friends somewhere. Classes was not a priority at all. So once a year, then winter. So finally, the winter break came in. December onwards, the winter break came in. We finished off with the seventh semester exams. Went back home. So there were 2 months at home. So my plan was to look for RA positions, find a nice master's position, and chill. फाइनल सेमेस्टर में मतलब मेरे को लगा फाइनल सेमेस्टर में देखा जाएगा क्या करना है और इस समय मेरे को बस चिल करना है. मतलब मैंने ये मेंटालिटी आ गई थी मेरी. और यहाँ पर आता है अब आता है रियल कंफ्यूजन. आई विल से वेरी ऑब्जेक्टिवली 2023 वाज वन ऑफ द हार्डेस्ट इयर्स ऑफ माय लाइफ. पहले एक हफ्ते छुट्टी के बाद मजा आ रहा था. घर में आ गए हो तुम्हें मतलब मॉम इज गिविंग यू नाइस फूड टू हैव एंड you're hanging out with your family after many months. You have your friends. from your hometown you're chilling with. I'm from Gurgaon actually, so I met a lot of my school friends. I met like a bunch of my other friends from tuitions and random stuff. So it was fun. एक हफ्ते बहुत मजा आ रहा था, लेकिन फिर दूसरे हफ्ते ऑनवर्ड मुझे बोर्डम किक इन करने लगा कि भाई ठीक है, मैं आई फाइंड एन आर ए पोजीशन, आई डू सम मास्टर्स थिंग, बट उसके अलावा व्हाट एम आई डूइंग, व्हाट कंस्ट्रक्टिव थिंग्स एम आई डूइंग. मेरे को फिर वो बोर्डम खाने लग गया मेरे को बहुत, एंड आई वाज रियली फिगरिंग आउट कि व्हाट डू आई डू. मेरे को बिल्डिंग का बहुत शौक था, स्टार्टअप मेरे को हमेशा थोड़ा शौक था, बट आई नेवर थॉट दैट वो मेरे एकेडमिक चीजों के साथ अलाइन करेगा कभी. तो आई ऑल्सो थॉट दैट स्टार्टअप एक साइड हसल बन के रह जाएगा मेरे लिए, समथिंग दैट आई विल ऑलवेज बी enthusiastic about, but I would never do something about it. It was always like that. I viewed it in a way. And given like, it was a very random thing that happened during my winter break, fourth year winter break. Mein. My mom suddenly reconnected. So my mom is an educator, okay? She's an educator at an inclusive school. My mom connected with one of her old colleagues who's a special educator. She runs a special school in Gurgaon. She told, so that lady asked my mother, what does your daughter do? What are your kids doing? And my mom told her that, she's studying biotech and she wants to do neuroscience PhD and all of that. And I already had some experience volunteering for, disability non-profits and special schools when I was in college and I was in high school. तो वहां पर ऐसे ही ना, my mom told me that I met this person. I'm like, can you connect me with her? I really want to speak with her. And also like a lived experience snippet. I'm autistic ADHD actually, so like there's a little of a personal connection I've always felt with this problem statement. That's why I used to volunteer. I mean, as a student, I could not do much, but caring about a problem and trying to do something in your very limited abilities also is a form of doing things. एंड वो छोटा मोटा जो मेरा एफर्ट होता था, उसी को आई थॉट कि आई वर्क, मतलब जो भी मेरे पास बची कुछ छुट्टियां है, आई वर्क एट द स्पेशल स्कूल एंड सी व्हाट हैपेंस. आई आस्क्ड हर फॉर अ ऑब्जर्वरशिप देयर बिकॉज इंटर्न्स वो लेती नहीं है ऐसे, मतलब बिकॉज मेरे बैकग्राउंड का इंटर्न भी उसके लिए इतना काम का होगा नहीं. तो मैंने कहा मुझे ऑब्जर्वरशिप दे दो, मैं आपके स्कूल में आया करूंगी एंड आई जस्ट सी क्या हो रहा है. इनिशियली मेरे को भी आइडिया नहीं था मैं क्या करूँ. मेरे को कोई आइडिया नहीं था, मेरे पास कोई इंस्पायरिंग कहानी भी नहीं है आपको इसमें बताने के लिए कि भाई मेरे को यूरेका मोमेंट आया कि मेरे को मतलब स्पेशल नीड स्टूडेंट्स की हेल्प करनी है, जो बच्चे मेरे जैसे हैं मुझे उनकी हेल्प करनी है. मेरे को कोई ऐसा यूरेका मोमेंट नहीं है. मेरे को बस लगा कि मेरे पास टाइम है, लेट मी जस्ट डू समथिंग रादर देन वॉचिंग नेटफ्लिक्स एंड अप्लाइंग. क्योंकि देखो जॉब एप्लीकेशन अगर आप अकेले वही कर रहे हो ना, दैट कैन बी वेरी ड्रेनिंग. क्योंकि देखो, you will just get one job, okay? You might get interview calls, you might get offers, but ultimately you have to take one job. And to get that one job, you have to apply to 200, 300 places. उसमें 200, 300 में से भी 175 are going to be rejection. It's not indicative of your ability, it's just where their needs are suited, or what exactly are they looking for. Sometimes you just don't fit, so you will get rejected. So I mean, do it like job searching full time was not my jam, honestly. मैं उतना रिजेक्शन एक दिन में नहीं देख सकती हूँ, मतलब खाली रिजेक्शन नहीं देख सकती हूँ. ऑफकोर्स अब आता है, अब मैं तो आई रन अ स्टार्टअप, वही रिजेक्शन तो हमारे लिए इज ऑलमोस्ट रोज का चीज है हमारे लिए. मगर वो चीज खाली नहीं करनी चाहिए कभी, मतलब मेरे ओपिनियन में नहीं करनी चाहिए वो. तो मैंने भी यार, मतलब आई वर्क एट द स्पेशल स्कूल फॉर अ वाइल. एंड वहां पर लाइक आई रियलाइज की ओके, I used to like volunteer with these educators. I used to talk to those kids, talk to those parents. ऐसे ही random out of curiosity. मेरे पास कोई उस समय पे बहुत जबरदस्त आइडिया नहीं था कि भाई अब मेरे को उठ के स्टार्टअप बनाना है जी, नथिंग. मेरे को बस एक था, एक यार देखते हैं क्या सिस्टम है, क्या कैसे चलता है सब कुछ. I could through January to May of 2023, I worked at this special school. I did not go to college, and the funny thing around it is, so my college excuses students to not attend 8th semester if they have a corporate job offer letter. And I didn't have like jobs at scientific labs abroad, but they were all like, dated after my graduation. So there was there was not no such thing for me to not attend college to do these things. So, मतलब Again, thoda sa, it's not the most ethical thing to do, but I got an offer letter from a startup founder I knew. कि मैंने उन्हें बोला that please help me. I don't want to go to college. This is something I found. I'm really liking it. And my because even if that special school would give me a job, that is not something my college would consider as a placement, quote unquote. They would be like, why is a biotech person going into something which is so unrelated to their field? And so yeah, then I had to show that I have a corporate job letter. I'm working at a apparel sourcing company as a management trainee generalist. I but and yeah, I mean I faked that offer letter to work at this special school for 5 6 months. It was very fun doing that. And yeah, my college said, okay, approved. Go, do whatever you want. Come back to write the final exams, present what you did at this company. I'm like, oh god, what do I present? But then of course, we'll figure out ho jata hai. So for 5 months I worked at this special school. But again, I was not having a lot of direction around what do I actually do after my degree. ये तो ठीक है, अभी I'm a student, I am getting to work here, but then उसके बाद क्या? And while working at these special schools, honestly, I could just see my childhood being replayed in front of me in the form of those kids I used to work with, and the parents who used to talk to me. I could just see my own childhood being replayed through those parents with concerns or those students saying things, students struggling in the current education system that is not tailoring to what they truly need. तो मेरे को सीरियसली लगा यार कुछ इसमें पोटेंशियल तो है, मतलब क्या कर सकते हैं हम. आई डिड नॉट हैव लाइक अ क्लियर कट आइडिया कि मेरे को यही करना है, बट मेरे को सीरियसली लगा कि यार मतलब लेट्स ट्राई समथिंग. So even before trying, I had like two friends who were very passionate about the disability space. Falguni, my co-founder, and who has always been like my partner in crime. Both of us have had shared hate towards classes. We both built a lot of societies and clubs in college together. We did a lot of cool things, built and broke things in college. छोटा मोटा से ही startup projects and side projects करते रहते थे. तो मैंने उसको बताया, and she also has ADHD. तो मतलब she really resonates with this problem statement because उसने भी ये problem live करी है. Falguni's core expertise was startup operations. She was a hardcore, मतलब उसको startup operator बनना था, उसका इतना ambition था लाइफ में. तो मैंने उसको बताया कि यार मेरे को ये करना है. She's like, okay भाई, let's go. You know. Then फाल्गुनी का एक्सपर्टीज प्रोडक्ट था, मेरे को R&D रिलेटेड चीजें ज्यादा आती थी. एंड हमारा को फाउंडर, अब द थिंग, हमें हमें एक और को फाउंडर ढूंढना पड़ता टेक बनाने के लिए, बिकॉज हमारे जो स्पेशल नीड्स का सिस्टम है इंडिया में, वो बहुत उसमें बहुत कम टेक्नोलॉजी इनेबलमेंट है. मतलब इट बिकम्स वेरी एक्सपेंसिव, इट बिकम्स वेरी strenuous, it becomes very time taking, everything. तो हमें लगा कि आफ्टर टॉकिंग टू अ लॉट ऑफ डिसेबिलिटी एक्सपर्ट्स, पेरेंट्स एंड चिल्ड्रन, हमें लगा कि इस पर टेक्नोलॉजी से प्रोडक्टाइज करना है इस पाइपलाइन को, और स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन लाना है. जो मतलब इस प्रॉब्लम हमने इस पूरी एरिया को स्टडी किया. लेकिन अब इसमें वही है, अब इसमें है कि मेरे को ग्रेजुएट भी करना है, मेरे को ये भी करना है, मेरे को मेरी आरए की जॉब का भी देखना है मेरे को, क्योंकि मेरे पेरेंट्स वर एक्सपेक्टिंग कि इसको आरए करना है फिर पीएचडी करना है, सिंपल. एंड स्टार्टअप इतना, मतलब मेरे पेरेंट्स भी नहीं थे उतना एंकरेजिंग इनिशियली. उनको भी लगा कि मतलब क्या ये कुछ और कर रही थी, अब ये कहाँ से आ गए स्टार्टअप का भूत. तो मैंने ऐसा लेबल नहीं किया अपने पेरेंट्स को कि मैं स्टार्टअप कर रही हूँ, बट आई आस्क्ड माय मॉम कि अब मुझे गैप ईयर लेना है. एंड आई एम वेरी ग्रेटफुल टू माय मॉम फॉर टेकिंग दैट bet on me, taking that leap of faith कि ठीक है, maybe something might happen. And I remember 2023, I did get a few jobs. I did get a few RA jobs in the US, in Germany, in India itself. But I was finally going with the offer that I got from Germany, and I thought that I will keep building this special needs solution on the side while being an RA. That was what my mental frame was like. I was like, I need to take a job because my long term goal is to become a neuroscience researcher. So this is just something I will keep doing on the side. So honestly, again. And but again, back then getting a Schengen visa was very hard. मतलब Schengen visa लेने में time लग रहा था, बहुत पेपर वर्क लग रहा था. So those guys are like, okay, you figure out your visa, देखते हैं. फिर मैंने उसी वीजा को वेट करने के प्रोसेस में ही आई गॉट अ लिटिल मोर डीपर इनटू दिस बिकॉज आई हैड अ लॉट ऑफ फ्री टाइम. Sometimes the most defining things in your life will come out of boredom, honestly. And मेरे को लगा कि what is this non-linear trajectory that I'm taking? ये भाई मतलब आई हैव बीन अ रिसर्चर ऑल अलोंग, मेरे को तो यही करना है, व्हाई एम आई डूइंग दिस? क्योंकि वही है ना, एज इन माय लास्ट स्लाइड आल्सो आई मेंशनड द हार्डेस्ट थिंग इज नॉट टू लीव व्हाट इज ब्रोकन, इट इज टू लीव व्हाट इज वर्किंग बट इट्स लिमिटिंग. मतलब इट इज गिविंग यू enough kick to keep moving, but it's not giving you enough kick to say, oh yes, यही चाहिए. तो मतलब आप कई बार ना फिर वो बेर मिनिमम बेसिक में खुश रहना सीख लेते हो, मतलब और वो शायद मेरे साथ भी हो जाता अगर मैं ज्यादा देर और रहती. और अगर मेरे को ये आने वाले जॉब में मेरे को वीजा टाइम पे मिल जाता एंड एवरीथिंग वुड हैव बीन the way, a standard linear way of expected way of doing things, said I would not be talking to you about Cognitii or something like that. I would never talk to you about a startup or investing in companies or something. I would never talk to you about these things. So yeah, visa delays got me to get into this more and more. And like yeah, finally हमें एक टेक को फाउंडर भी मिल गया. हमने कहा कि यार हम लोग एक टेक इनेबल्ड प्रोडक्ट बनाना चाहते हैं स्पेशल नीड स्टूडेंट्स के लिए, कैसे बनाएं? तो मैंने ऐसे अपने फ्रेंड से शेयर किया कि यार मेरे को एक एआई रिसर्चर की हेल्प चाहिए जो हमें एआई बेस्ड बना के देगा. आई विल टेल यू व्हाट कॉग्निटी इज ऑल अबाउट एंड देन यू विल अंडरस्टैंड व्हाई वी नीडेड एन एआई रिसर्चर. तो उसने कहा यार माय चाइल्डहुड फ्रेंड इज एन एआई रिसर्चर, यू शुड टॉक टू हिम. हम लोग उससे मिले, वी टॉक टू हिम, ऑलमोस्ट मतलब एक वाइब हमारी सबकी बैठी. हम मतलब हम सब वी ऑल बॉन्डेड because that guy, I mean, he has worked with disability non-profits to incorporate tech into their learning programs. मतलब he's worked as a tech consultant for these disability non-profits, उनको technically enable करने के लिए. So everybody had some or the other personal connection with this problem. It's not just our technical backgrounds that were sipping in. We were like चलो कुछ बना कर देखते हैं फिर सोचें. हमने कोई स्टार्टअप वार्टअप कुछ नहीं सोचा था करने का, हमें बस लगा कि हम कुछ बनाएंगे. हमने बनाया, हमने कुछ पेरेंट्स को दिखाया है कि यार ये बनाया है हमने, आप क्या सोचते हो उसके बारे में. हमने कुछ एजुकेटर्स को दिखाया. एजुकेटर्स इनिशियली थोड़ा डर रहे थे कि हम शायद उन्हें रिप्लेस करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं थ्रू एआई, बट आई एम टेलिंग दिस, educators, doctors will never be replaced by any AI in the world. AI will always be an amplifier for them. AI will always make their jobs easier, but AI will never replace at least these two professions because they are very trust oriented professions more than anything else. So Act 4 of my story is if you can't have a seat at the table, build the table. So I did. And it was close to Feb 2024, जहाँ पे figuring out और visa figuring out ही चल रही थी हमारी. हम लोगों ने कॉग्निटी का एक पहला बिल्ड बनाया. ये कुछ इसके स्क्रीनशॉट्स हैं. वेलकम टू कॉग्निटी. ये इसके कुछ गेम्स हमने बनाए. So how कॉग्निटी works, like let me talk to you about what कॉग्निटी is like kind of. So Cognitii is basically solving with the capacity and infrastructure gaps in the special education system. We don't have enough educators. Most of our educators are concentrated in tier one cities, and special education is super expensive. मतलब एक मेन स्ट्रीम स्कूल की फीस से डबल होती है स्पेशल एजुकेटर के पास जाने की फीस आपकी. तो अगर आप एक स्पेशल नीड स्टूडेंट हो, मतलब आपका स्पेशल एजुकेशन लेने की एबिलिटी इन तीन चीजों पर डिपेंड करेगा. आपके पेरेंट्स की इनकम, आपका पिन कोड और आपका लक. यही तीन चीजों पर डिपेंड करता है. तो हमें लगा ये डेमोक्रेटाइज कहाँ से कर सकते हैं हम एक्सेसिबिलिटी के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से हम एंटर करें इस मार्केट में कि एक्सेसिबिलिटी कैसे बढ़ाई जाए. तो हमने एक मोबाइल ऐप बनाया which could personalize the learning experience using AI. That's why an AI researcher was needed for this. क्योंकि हम फिर लर्नर डेटा जो करते थे कॉग्निटिव स्किल्स को मैप करके हम एक पर्सनलाइज एल्गोरिदम बनाते उससे, और जो एक लर्निंग प्रोग्राम बनाता बच्चों के लिए. हमने कुछ गेम्स बनाई थी ऐप पे जो बच्चे खेल सकते थे टू पॉलिश देयर एकेडमिक स्किल्स. हमने इनिशियली मैथ और इंग्लिश से स्टार्ट किया, लेकिन जब हमने और पेरेंट्स को दिखाया और एजुकेटर्स को दिखाया, उन्होंने कहा मैथ और इंग्लिश ही थी. Why are you not including social emotional skills and skills that genuinely help people with disabilities survive in this world? हमें लगा कितना important हो सकता है. We spoke with more educators. So the thing about me and my co-founders, we're all late diagnosed neurodivergent. मेरे को 21 की उम्र में पता चला आई हैव ऑटिज्म ADHD. My co-founder also found out around the same time or sometime earlier maybe. But well, again, we are all late diagnosed people. So our childhood, well, we never had the awareness to go and take the resources that were out there to help kids like us. And honestly, there were not many. I mean, I grew up in Bombay and Delhi. मतलब आधा बॉम्बे में I grew up, आधा दिल्ली में I grew up. तो वहां पर अगर फैसिलिटीज नहीं होती, आप टीयर 2 टीयर 3 सिटीज का सोचो ना, वहां पे तो कुछ भी नहीं होता वहां. तो हमने ऑनेस्टली अक्टूबर 2023 से फेब 2024 तक हमने अनऑफिशियली कॉग्निटी बिल्ड किया. नो इनकॉर्पोरेशन, नथिंग, जस्ट थ्री ब्रोक किड्स हैविंग ड्रीम, हैविंग अ गोल. एक्चुअली हम लोग ड्रीम नहीं करते, हम लोग गोल बनाते हैं. क्योंकि ड्रीम्स आर लाइक ठीक है, ड्रीम्स कई बार फैंटेसी भी हो सकते हैं. एंड फैंटेसी की तो एक चीज होती है, फैंटेसी वो वेरी कन्विंस की ये कभी होगा नहीं. बट गोल इज समथिंग विच इज वेरी अचीवेबल. आपको एक क्लियर पाथ दिख रहा है हाउ टू अचीव इट, और मे भी अगर क्लियर पाथ नहीं दिख रहा है, आपको खुद में भरोसा है दैट यू समहाउ गो आउट देयर एंड अचीव इट. तो हमने एक गोल सेट किया था कि यार इसका एक प्रोडक्ट बनाएंगे, देखेंगे क्या होगा, उसके बाद सोचा जाएगा. एंड फिर 2024 तक हमने ये किया. कॉग्निटी कनेक्ट वाज अ व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप ऑफ पेरेंट्स and some educators who used to test this build of the product for us. ये वेलकम टू कॉग्निटी वाले ये जो साइट्स हैं, ये बिल्ड प्रोडक्ट का टेस्ट करके हमें बताया जाता था कि इसमें क्या प्रॉब्लम्स है, क्या बेटर हो. I'm very grateful to those set of parents, and most of the parents who we used to work with, they came from that special school where I volunteered for a while. I used to share this vision with them that, and the thing is, I told them what can help you better. They're like better educational intervention. How can our child learn better? This is how the inspiration for Cognitii truly came in. मैंने कहा अगर हम ऐसा बनाएंगे क्या आप यूज करोगे उसको? They're like ऐसा कुछ है तो बताओ, ऐसा कुछ है तो बताओ. was our way of you know going all guns blazing कि यार यही करना है. And we were met with very overwhelming feedback. यार why is this not available? Why are you guys not making it further? फिर वहां पे फाल्गुनी शोविक and I, all of us, we start to think यार अब क्या करें. एंड ये जो राइट साइड में मेरी पिक्चर है, ये मैंने अशोका के एक्सेलरेटर में ऐसे ही मजे मजे में अप्लाई कर लिया था. आई हैड नो होप्स ऑफ गेटिंग सिलेक्टेड, बट वी वर इंडिया सेमी फाइनलिस्ट ऑफ द एम्बिशन एक्सेलरेटर इन जून लास्ट ईयर. And in May 2024, we got Cognitii incorporated as a company, as a private limited company in India. We got it incorporated. कि यार ठीक है, this is when we go all guns blazing. जब हमें इतना कंज्यूमर वैलिडेशन मिला, हमें लगा कि यार नहीं, दिस इज समथिंग वी नीड टू डू. एंड ऑनेस्टली हम इतना हेड डाउन हो चुके थे इस प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट में कि हमारा मन हमारी जॉब में नहीं लग रहा था. जो हम लोग कर रहे थे हमारा मन उसमें लग ही नहीं रहा था. हमें यही करना था. ऑल ऑफ अस वी वेंट टू दैट मोमेंट. मतलब यू कैन कॉल इट ऑब्सेशन, यू कैन कॉल इट वन साइडेड फोकस, बट वी वर लाइक हमें यही करना है. So yeah, मतलब we were not having a seat at the table, so we built it. That's how we built it. I mean, it's very raw. We have spent 1 year just hiding behind a laptop and building and shipping and just making people try it out. That 2023 to 24 ka time was like origin. It was a reinvention. It was a detour for me. It was not something that I was expected to do, but it was just something which kept on happening because of circumstances, because of boredom. I don't have something very inspiring to tell you here कि भाई मेरे को यूरेका मोमेंट आया तो मैंने करा. नहीं, मेरे को कोई यूरेका मोमेंट नहीं आया. मेरे को धीरे धीरे आई थिंक जस्ट one situation kept on leading me to another, and here I am. We built out a very basic version of Cognitii, and May 2024 onwards we went heads down into building this. फुल टाइम हो गए हम लोग सब, एंड यही बिल्ड किया. So now it is getting started. Like 1 year into building Cognitii completed a year on the 29th of May. So now our product looks very different now. Again, earlier we started off with consumers, with parents. Now we sell to institutions. We have raised money from some of the best social innovation funds. We have been acknowledged by some of the most respected assistive technology investors in the country and in the world. Funds like Emergent Ventures, Ashoka, Neti Tide, like Many innovation funds started to back us. People started to believe in what we were saying. And Ashoka, this ambition accelerator, was the biggest turning point for us. Where the people were like, okay, no, this kid might be up to something good. And like again, I am a product of the people who had faith in me when they saw us before the world did. The second picture on here is like this is an ICMR scientist. This is one of the most respected angel investors of India giving me a certificate. On the side, like the woman in the pink shirt is one of the best disability researchers in the world, Kathy Holloway at UCL. This is a more refined version of Cognitii that we built a few months back. This is me getting recognized for our work at Cognitii at the Access Tech Innovation Summit 2 months back. We started to sell to governments, to non-profits. Just like this small picture is like our, it's kind of our war room, like where we have our sales brochures kept, our laptops with Excel sheets and CRMs as to who's coming in. And yeah, still even today, most of my days go behind a laptop, selling, reaching out to institutions, and showing them that Cognitive can add value to their ecosystem. This is us pitching at our incubator's boardroom to some of the best angel investors in India, including Paninder Kama and like other investors. So yeah, I mean sometimes non-linear is exponential, and probably these detours help you to step into your becoming. We are still very much a very very scientifically conscious company in the sense whatever learning modules we build are in line with the neuroscience method. AI is an extension of neuroscience, honestly. Most of neuroscience is heading towards AI. So in some ways, we are a neuroscience company. In some ways, I mean, I'll not say it entirely, but I still think like a scientist. I and my academic journey, you know, I have learned so much from it, and a lot of my founding styles, my company leading styles are very very similar to the abilities that a scientist has. Like, and interestingly, scientists and entrepreneurs have a lot of similarities actually. There's never a dull moment with a scientist or an entrepreneur sitting with you because there is no dearth of ideas. A scientist also has thousand ideas about their field. Entrepreneur के साथ तो बैठ जाओ 60 startup ideas आपको 60 मिनट में मिल जाएंगे. मतलब even if those ideas are absolutely bullshit, but there is just always something going on in their heads. They're always trying to make their fields better. They're identifying problems that can be solved. And the thing about exceptional scientists and entrepreneurs is all of them have an exceptional problem sense. उनको पता है कि कौन सी problems are worth solving और कौन सी problems are not worth solving. बहुत सारी problems हमारी दुनिया में some problems are just simply not worth solving. So that is what helps scientists become good entrepreneurs. Sam Altman wrote this one article, which gave me a lot of confidence. Because earlier when I used to pitch to investors, I was very underconfident about my background because both my co-founders they've had some or the other startup experience. My Falguni had a startup usse pehle. She's worked at startups. Shovik, my other co-founder, he also had a startup. It was like lauded by the government and he was doing amazing work. And he's been an AI researcher. He's been an engineer at various startups, so he understood the engineering leadership side of things in startups. I didn't. My background was the most non-traditional background out of the three of us. बट मेरे को बैठ के सेलिंग करनी थी. मेरे को बैठ के पैसे लाने थे कंपनी के लिए. मतलब जब इन्वेस्टर मुझे तुमने क्या किया है, आई यूज्ड टू बी वेरी अंडर कॉन्फिडेंट कि मैंने क्या किया है, मेरे को तो कुछ भी नहीं आता, मैंने स्टार्टअप नहीं किया है. इसकी वजह से आई ब्लू अप अ लॉट ऑफ माय इन्वेस्टर मीटिंग्स इन द वेरी अर्लीस्ट स्टेजेस. जब हम मार्च मई जून में जब हम लास्ट ईयर पैसे रेस करने की कोशिश करते थे थोड़े बोले, आई यूज्ड टू से अरे मतलब हाँ मतलब ठीक है मेरा बैकग्राउंड भी, मेरे co-founders ने लेकिन ये किया है वो किया. I would sell their background very aggressively, but I could not sell mine. And then I came across Sam Altman's article on researchers and founders. उसी से I can tell you, मतलब how researchers and founders are so similar in so many ways, and how a researcher can be an exceptional entrepreneur, and how entrepreneurs are scientists in their own ways. Because what we do in our companies, they're all experiments, because we're trying to do something which other people haven't, or if other people have, we're trying to do it differently. And Cognitii is also the latter case. A lot of people are doing what we do, but we are doing things differently. एंड तो वो डिफरेंट चीजें करने के लिए आपको एक साइंटिस्ट माइंडसेट से घुसना पड़ेगा कि यार मेरे को एक्सपेरिमेंट करना है. यू हैव टू बी ओके विद फेलिंग. मोस्ट ऑफ योर इनसाइट्स अबाउट योर मार्केट आर गोइंग टू बी एक्सट्रीमली काउंटर इंट्यूटिव. आप किसी माइंडसेट के स्टेप करते हो, आपको मार्केट कुछ और ही कहानी सुनाता है. एंड आपको अडेप्ट करना आना चाहिए. साइंस और रिसर्च में रिसर्च और स्टार्टअप में फर्क सिर्फ इतना है दैट रिसर्च में यू हैव टाइम टू डेलिबरेट योर अप्रोच. आप 3-4 दिन बैठ के पीआई के डिसाइड कर सकते हो कि मेरे को ये अप्रोच लेना है, हम ये रिएजेंट डालेंगे. एंड मतलब आपके पास टाइम है टू थिंक योर मूव इन एडवांस. Startups unfortunately or fortunately don't give you that window. It does not give you that thinking window. कई बार you have to start doing before you start thinking. So that was a very major unlearning for me. And what happens academia with the thought तरीके somehow sometimes it cultivates unconscious perfectionism in me. To get this right, how do I get my attempt right? I don't know if it somehow most of the academics I know they have this thing in them. I also had it in myself. Yeah, I want to get it right even if I get it slow. But startups don't allow you to be slow. स्टार्टअप में अगर आप कोई चीज स्लोली कर रहे हो, आपके कंपेटिटर्स वो कर लेंगे आपसे पहले. तो स्पीड इज अ वेरी बिग डिफरेंशिएटर स्टार्टअप में. एंड वो अनलर्निंग के साथ, वो एक री इन्फोर्समेंट के साथ आई एम इनफ. मेरा एक बैकग्राउंड बहुत डिफरेंट है. आई ब्रिंग इन अ लिव्ड एक्सपीरियंस. आई नो आई अंडरस्टैंड दिस प्रॉब्लम साइंटिफिकली एंड टेक्निकली. कुछ तो मेरे को भी आता है यार इस फील्ड में. अगर आई स्टार्टेड दिस किसी इंटेंट है, तो समथिंग आई ऑल्सो am doing correctly, if not everything. So that is where things change. And the very first job as a founder and a CEO for me is to inspire confidence before anything else. मेरे को टीम का इंस्पायर करना है कॉन्फिडेंस. यार देखो, ये विजन पे काम करो. स्पेंड द प्राइम ऑफ योर लाइफ वर्किंग ऑन दिस विजन बिकॉज दिस विजन मैटर्स एंड यू विल हैव टू ट्रस्ट मी. एंड ऑफ कोर्स आई also have to trust them to do what they do right. But to get people involved with you, you will have to cultivate trust. And the field where we are in, trust is paramount. Because यहाँ पे you are working with people with disabilities here. Their institutions are entrusting you with their data. Their parents are entrusting you with their progress. These children, their future depends on you. तो आपको एक ट्रस्ट मेंटेन करना आना चाहिए कस्टमर के साथ, इन्वेस्टर के साथ. इन्वेस्टर को आपको भरोसा दिलाना है कि मैं आपका पैसा बढ़ाकर आपको दूंगा, दूंगी. आपको आई एम द पर्सन यू शुड बी बेटिंग ऑन. वो कॉन्फिडेंस से ही तो जगता है वो. आपको पहले अपने आप में कॉन्फिडेंस लाना पड़ेगा. पहले आपको अपने आप में विश्वास करना पड़ेगा. फिर आप किसी और को विश्वास जगा सकते हो अपने बारे में कि दिस इज समथिंग आई एम डूइंग एंड आई वुड वांट यू टू पार्टनर विद मी as a co-builder, co-creator, an investor, or whatever, a customer. But I realize it's all about confidence. And yeah, honestly, 1 year into building Cognitii, we are just getting started. Honestly, yes, we are raising money, we are getting more customers, but the path is very long. And honestly, it started as a detour and something that I started to do on the side, but it just became so central to our day-to-day existence that by by March or April of 2024, we could not imagine our life without building this. There was an obsession which kicked in. There was a validation, an overwhelming validation we got around what we were doing. And sometimes you need that a small leap of faith. Yeah, okay. Whatever I was doing, you need to be a destroyer sometimes to be a creator in the truest sense. You have to destroy the systems that are not working for you. They're not helping you realize your best, or are just not matching with your values. You will have to first destroy the existing thing to build the new thing upon it. That is something I learned in the past 1 year. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far. There's a very, very long path ahead of us. But, sometimes having that faith and just doing what you're supposed to do, it can land you at the most unexpected places. I mean, we just kept on building, and we honestly, apne aap we serendipity, divine grace, I don't know what to call it, but you will come across the right people at the right time. Just step in with the right intentions, the right why. You need to have your why very clear. Why are you doing it? If you're doing it for the money, if you're doing it for the claps, if you're doing it for some other vanity metric की LinkedIn के पीछे founder and CEO लिखना है, trust me, better ways of making money, better ways of getting fame. But being a founder is a horrible way to make a living if you're not passionate about it. Behind all of this are sleepless nights, breakdowns. There have been many moments where we thought that this is over for us, and शायद अभी भी बहुत सारे और moments आएंगे हमारे लिए. But you need to know your why very well. Our why is to help, not even help. Our why is to, ensure that the children who are like us, they get to learn in the best way possible, in a way that truly caters to their needs. And irrespective of their income levels or their parents' income levels, where they live or whatnot, we will reach the last mile. ये हमारा why है. और इसकी वजह से भी शायद जो मतलब द बैड डेज जो हमने देखे हैं, ये तो मैं आपको यहाँ पे आपको सिर्फ गुड डेज और नॉर्मल डेज दिख रहे हैं थोड़े. पर अगर मैं आपको एक्चुअल दिखाऊंगी, इट्स अ स्पेक्ट्रम, एंड एक पीबीटी विल नॉट बी एबल टू डू जस्टिस. पर हाँ, मतलब व्हाट आई मीन टू से इज, behind a few wins are many, many losses that nobody talks about. There is a lot of internal churning that happens in your head कि यार मतलब should I continue, should I not continue. ऐसे हर रोज हमारे साथ कुछ कुछ होता है where we are like अरे यार छोड़ो, we would have been better off doing jobs or working somewhere or studying somewhere. Because वहां पर क्या है, देखो आपसे सिर्फ एक चीज का एक्सपेक्टेशन है, अपनी पढ़ाई अच्छे से करो, अपना अपना दिया हुआ काम अच्छे से करो. पर यहाँ पर सडनली एक पूरी कंपनी आप पर डिपेंड करती है. सेल्स, मार्केटिंग, फाइनेंस, ऑपरेशन, लर्नर एक्सपीरियंस, सब कुछ आप पर डिपेंड करता है. आपकी एक गलती, आपकी कंपनी खत्म. लैब में अगर एक एक्सपेरिमेंट में गलती हो गई, आपको पीआई बोलेगा 2 दिन के बाद फिर लगाना है एक्सपेरिमेंट, सोच समझ कर जाओ फिर करो. यहाँ पर इतना फॉरगिविंग माहौल नहीं. गलती हो गई तो यू हैव टू क्लियर अप द मेस. अगर छोटी गलती हुई है, अगर बड़ी गलती हुई है तो देन इट इज ओवर. तो वही है, छोटी बड़ी गलतियों के बीच में यू हैव टू लर्न. आपके पास दुनिया भर के मेंटर्स हो सकते हैं, बट आपको आप बिजनेस में वही करना होता है जो आपको लग रहा है कि इसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस के साथ आप लिव कर सकते हो. यू कैन लिव विद द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस ऑफ व्हाट यू डू. तो वही है, इट्स अ गेम ऑफ क्लैरिटी एंड कन्विक्शन कमिंग टुगेदर. We are stepping in with, like, 1 year down the line of building Cognitii, we are stepping in with more conviction we ever had in our lives about anything else. And honestly, we are just here playing the long term game with long term stakeholders, long term investors who are giving us patient capital, long term investors, long term customers, the state governments, as non profits, as private schools who are ready to co create the solution with us and, see the change, the systems change that happens. So, yeah, I'm like happy doing what I'm doing. It was a detour. I was very concerned where my career is going. Initially, I thought when I used to see my friends, 2023 was the hardest year in a way, where I was seeing all my friends step into the new chapters of their lives after BTech. कोई MTech कर रहा है, कोई MS कर रहा है, कोई बाहर जा रहा है, कोई job कर रहा है कहीं पे. Everybody was stepping into a new life, new friends, new cities, everything new. I was at my place in Gurgaon. I had no idea. Of course, the Germany job was a high for me that year. He, I got a job at a Max Planck Institute, so I was very, very excited about it because Max Planck Institute was somewhere I really, really wanted to work. Undergrad, I tried, but it just never could happen. So it was like a dream come true for me. But sometimes, God has their own plans. I mean, मैं भगवान में मानती हूँ, तो I'll say God has their own plans. Destiny has their own plans sometimes, which pushed me to do this. And yeah, I'm happy with where I am right now. Of course, there's always room for doing more, being more, but I'm happy about where we have come, where we are going. And yeah, probably ask me the same question next year. I'll have a better answer to give you. So now, Act 6. Outside of building Cognitii, I'm involved with a DeFi fund called Athena DAO. And यहाँ पे I was a founder अभी तक, but now I'm a funder too. Honestly, a DeFi fund is where a lot of scientists and scientifically conscious citizens come together with crypto wallets to fund promising research, promising startups that can potentially change the face of women's health. Athena DAO is like we are a DeFi fund which focuses on funding women's health research, longevity research, particularly reproductive longevity research. And Athena DAO is like it has become somewhere in the middle of foundations, grants between equity capital, where startups can raise equity. जैसे Shark Tank में आप देखते हो, where a founder is giving up 10% of their company at a 15-20 crore valuation. I'm just giving you examples. Of course, हर industry का different valuation होता है. पर Athena DAO, our funds help companies to build their IP, intellectual properties. Because look, most of the therapeutic, diagnostic, and drug related companies have compelling IPs. The companies that truly succeed, they have compelling IPs. So Athena DAO gives them the funds to build their IPs, build their concepts into compelling products. We help with technology transfer, co-developing it through our community of women. Because again, women's health के products women पे use होने चाहिए, and women's health being the most underfunded research area is like all of the decisions are taken by men. So that's like a very surprising, very amusing thing for us here. So it's like women take decisions about the things that truly come to them, and women should be in charge of funding what will come for them. And through our community, we help women test new products, and through our deal flow, we decide which company gets funded, which doesn't. Again, we're mostly an all women team. I think we just have two men, two extremely kind and capable men who help us do scientific due diligence of the deals that we get in. Athena DAO invests in the IP of these companies using NFTs. We have our tokens, and the figure on the right is like our Web3 model of approaching investment. Right? We give members tokens on their crypto wallets. These tokens fund research, and the research is led by the startup or the PI. Successful IP generated, more members come in, and this just goes on and on. That's how the IP NFT model works. And like just last week only, we launched Athena Bio within Athena DAO. So a DAO is basically a decentralized autonomous organization, right? I forgot to mention. But yeah, well, we are most of the funding in academia and in startups is very guarded right now. Right? VCs, maybe there's an elitism that happens. Academia foundations and grants may only those people get funding who come from a certain pedigree, and a lot of talent that is truly, truly valuable for us, who can truly change the face of things, they get overlooked. They're underserved because academia foundations and grants are elitist. They don't believe in all of this. एंड वीसी को देखना है वही पेडिग्री वीसी आप में तभी इन्वेस्ट करेगा अगर आपने इससे पहले कोई स्टार्टअप किया है या आप एक बहुत ही अकम्प्लिश्ड ऑपरेटर हो इस फील्ड में ज्यादातर रिसर्चर्स के पास ये बैकग्राउंड नहीं होते तो डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड ऑटोनॉमस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन keeps the power of funding decision making in a community. We are democratizing access to funding, we are democratizing access to knowledge in this field through a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. That's what we do. And we recently have launched Athena Bio. Athena Bio is like the first capital, the first tech for scientific companies in women's health. एंड यहाँ पे वी विल फॉलो द ट्रेडिशनल वीसी मॉडल जहाँ पे इक्विटी में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं. वीसी टिपिकली इक्विटी या डेट में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं. हम अथीना डाओ में आईपी में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, और यहाँ अथीना बायो में अब हम भी इक्विटी मॉडल पे आएंगे. So yeah, I mean, it's just a fancy way to say that we're scientists with crypto wallets and voting powers, governance powers. So it's been fun. I mean, there are like 9 companies we are supporting. We are like, 2 research projects we have funded. One of them is spinning off into an early stage startup. The 2 startups we have funded. There are a bunch of startups we are incubating, and we'll be supporting them through Athena Bio or some other Athena DAO initiative. It's been a few months since I've been into this, but I'm really enjoying what I'm doing outside of Cognitii. This is like a nice way to, be in touch with the science that I've always loved. So yeah, I mean, that's what is going on. So whether it's founding for funding or fixing, just my method is still very, very scientific. It's just pre-programmed for the real world. Like we program stem cells using translational factors. When we induce pluripotency जैसे हम induce करते हैं translational factors से, वैसे ही हम लोग अब अपने तरीके को through an impact model reprogram कर रहे हैं, reprogramming it for the real world. So I've never left science. I never did. I'm still very much a part of this ecosystem. I've just chosen a different lab, a different way of serving my ecosystem because that's something I do better with. And yeah, I'm born to hang with mom, forced to build a startup. But the key takeaways of this talk is non-linear is exponential. Most of the time, sometimes मैंने यहाँ पे थोड़ा discount करने के लिए लिखा है, but trust me, अगर एक non-linear detour हो रहा है, be open to exploring. कई बार it can take you to the most different, most unexpected paths in your life. Typically, it's boring. मतलब बैचलर्स करके मास्टर्स करके पीएचडी करके पोस्ट डॉक करके प्रोफेसर बनना, मतलब दैट्स नॉट दी ओनली पाथ. बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग पाथ एग्जिस्ट करते हैं. आई होप मेरी स्टोरी आपके लिए एक एग्जाम्पल है. ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग हैं. आप अगर जितने भी लोग हो इस कॉल पे, आप सबकी अपनी अपनी एक स्टोरी होगी. तो ओन योर स्टोरी. टिपिकल इज जेन्युइनली वेरी बोरिंग, और आजकल की दुनिया में टिपिकल चलता भी नहीं, क्योंकि टिपिकल में आप अगर 100 लोग हो, टिपिकल पास 95 लोग फॉलो कर रहे हैं. क्या आप उस 5 में आने की हिम्मत करते हो? दैट इज व्हाट विल सेट यू अपार्ट फ्रॉम द रेस्ट. एंड यू फिगर इट आउट ऑन योर ओन डैम टर्म्स यार. मतलब मैंने कोई ये नहीं सोचा कि मेरे को मेरे फ्रेंड्स मास्टर्स कर रहे हैं, मेरे को भी कर लेना चाहिए. मेरे फ्रेंड्स जॉब कर रहे हैं, कोई बायोकॉन में काम कर रहा है, कोई कहीं कर रहा है. आई फिगर्ड इट आउट, एंड आई फिगर्ड इट आउट ऑफ माय ओन डैम टर्म्स, एंड आई हैव नो रिग्रेट्स अबाउट इट. तो अगर आपका मन कर रहा है कुछ करने का, तो प्लीज करो. क्योंकि अगर आप नहीं करोगे तो दैट रिग्रेट विल हॉन्ट यू फॉर द रेस्ट ऑफ योर लाइफ. डू थिंग्स ऑन योर ओन टर्म्स. कोई यहाँ पे कोई टाइमलाइन डिफाइन नहीं कर रहा है कि मेरे को इस उम्र तक ये करना है. अगर जेप्टो वाला आदित्य पालिचा एंड केवलिया वोरा आर रेजिंग like $1 billion by 22, and you're not, doesn't mean that you're not doing anything in your life. It's just you are on a different path. Those guys have been on a different path. Figure it out while you own it on your own terms. And yeah, I mean, I am still figuring out, but it's kind of fun. I enjoy the work I do. I enjoy the people I work with. I enjoy with the people I work with. So yeah, it's good. And ultimately, people are everything. I've not written this in my slide, but people are everything. The kind of people you will work with will dictate the trajectory of your career later on. So try and surround yourself with good people. People who you want to, you know, learn from as a professional. You admire them as people. Try and surround yourself with those kind of people. Trust me, you're then, even if the small little problems will not bother you, and the big problems will become tolerable. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Thank you very much for listening, and you can connect with me by scanning this QR code. There's my LinkedIn and my Twitter. You can DM me, you can email me with your questions if you have any, and I'm also happy to take a few questions if you have for the time being. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an insightful session. So now the participants, the question and answer section is open for you guys. And we also have a few questions in the chat box as well, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
I muted myself. I realized.
Yeah, yeah, no issues, ma'am.
I feel where I lack in the most, lack of good people around. Yeah, Anjali, you wanted to ask something, please just unmute and let's talk.
Yeah, hello, ma'am.
What's up? And please don't call me ma'am, I'm Jhillika, please. I am most likely around your age only. No need to call me ma'am. It sounds
Okay.
very good.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. I just attended this, and I just have too many questions. I'm pursuing my PhD in biochemistry from IGNOU, and here I have no professor, no peers, so nobody around. It is just like webinar like this that I feel connected to people. And the thing you told about Max Planck, Max Planck is definitely the dream institute, and I wish to apply sometime over there. I
Yeah,
want to ask, like, what is the process? Like, how did you go there? Because being from IGNOU, I feel really, really distant. I feel like, oh my God, this is just out of reach.
I understand. I think like if you're in academia and you actively intend to be there, I suggest make a Twitter account because Twitter is like the academia of LinkedIn. Like you will not find a lot of academics on LinkedIn posting opportunities, but Twitter, where you can connect with these academics unofficially, and you can build those kind of relationships with them. You can get in touch with them. Like email is definitely a very traditional way, but most of the professors are very approachable on Twitter. You can talk to them. But I'll be very honest, the Max Planck opportunity came to me through Twitter because there was a scientist who was recruiting, visiting scientists and RAs around that time. And I just very casually texted her, "Hi, Dr. Henry, I want to work in your lab, and what can I do? I'm sending you my CV. If you like it, we can talk about it." And it was a lab which was kind of a bit out of my comfort zone. It was an auditory neuroscience lab. But the subject interested me enough to work there for a while. उसमें यार वही है, I feel your relationship building and networking skills really matter there. I suggest make Twitter accounts, connect with professors, be in touch, like the professors whose work you really like, because most of the times 8 out of 10 professors who you admire will have a Twitter account, and they will be very active on that, or Blue Sky or Mastodon or some other social network. And Blue Sky and Mastodon and Twitter are the most important, the most popular social networks among academics. So like join those, keep track of the opportunities that are coming in, or if you like some professors work, just go and email them like, hey, I love your work, I read this paper of yours, I had this question, I really like what you're doing, could I get a chance to become an exchange student, like because you're a PhD student, आपको visiting scientist का ही position मिल सकता है कहीं तो भी, given your current enrollment status, you can tell them that I want a visiting scientist position. What can I do? Tell them how passionate you are about the field, and most likely, look, when a professor sees true passion and they genuinely have the funds and the alignment, they'll take you. Time lagega, but they'll take you.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll make an account. And my next question is like, how is, I mean, I see everybody, they have everything figured out. I feel so confused. I am, uh, I'm doing my undergrad in biochemistry. Bioinformatics was there in my course in second year, so I was interested in that. Okay, then I studied immuno. That interested me too. I'll tell everything interesting. I don't know, like, what should I do? Whether I should go for, obviously I'll go for masters, but for PhD I'm not very sure. I'm not sure if I want to go into academia or industry. I mean there is just like too many doubts.
Okay, so I'll be very honest. I don't know if people will tell you this, but nobody has it figured out. Trust me, nobody has it. Everybody is figuring out. So it's a present tense thing. अगर आज कोई कुछ बोल रहा है मीन कि वो 6 महीने के बाद सेम चीज कर रहे होंगे. But what I can tell you here is the problem with a bachelor's in biotechnology is that you study everything. So everything interests you in some or the other way, and you're not able to figure out what to exactly stick with, which is a problem with the Indian system altogether. But again, I'm not here to point fingers on the system. Do whatever excites you. You will genuinely figure out. I think the only way to figure out your true interest is to get involved in that work on a very daily basis. Yeah, you can work at a lab, you can intern at some company, which works on immunotherapeutics or stuff like that. उसमें you will get an idea कि यार ये काम actually में कैसे लगता है. Because in theory, I also like immunology a lot. But when I studied it and I studied it in the papers and when I actually saw how labs approach problems in immunology, I'm like, okay, this does not interest me as much as development in neuroscience or stem cell biology, you know. So the only way to figure out your true interest is to just get your hands dirty. Nothing else. I don't have a very clear answer to give you.
And like, how can I get those opportunities remotely? Because I'm getting some offline opportunities, but I mean, I just can't go there offline. That's the limitation.
Okay. So if you have a limitation around this, I suggest you start with bioinformatics because bioinformatics आप laptop पे बैठ के भी कर सकते हो, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
So I suggest take bioinformatics opportunities and do that because the rest of science happens in the wet lab itself. Most of biotech happens अभी भी wet lab में होता है. Analysis definitely is dry lab, so maybe you can, if you want to really work with some wet lab, you can volunteer to analyze their data in a dry lab format. I think that can help you to gather more skills and make sense of experimental data. But if not, then bioinformatics is something you should stick with.
Yeah, I'm doing pathway analysis in bioinformatics, and that's online. But I'm not. I mean, I'm getting the opportunity to work, but I just can't go there. That's the thing. Like, I just couldn't go to any university offline due to financial instability, and that is the same thing right now. Like, I can't go there.
Understandable, completely understandable. Look, SMA, I suggest you can also reach out to bioinformatics professors abroad because India may there's a problem, let's admit it, that professors at the undergrad level are not willing to paying for your internships and all. And this is a very, very bad practice. But I mean, I understand Indian academia has a fund crunch, and overall also professors think that we did not take money at our time. Why would these guys take it? It's a very I suffer so you suffer mentality too. So इसमें यार I suggest go and reach out to foreign university PIs, ask them that this is what I'm doing, and I would really appreciate if you could compensate me for this. If you're confident in your skills, go ask for a compensation. Go ask for your money. I mean, you're not doing you're not doing things for free, right? Your knowledge is also valuable. I think first of all, the problem academia makes you devalue yourself. I'm not here, doing academia high over here, no. But it's like, what do I say? It's like researchers are not taught to financially value their work. So, and that this attitude is a little better out there in foreign universities. So you can tell them that this is the work you're doing, and you demand some stipend for it. Most of the PIs entertain such requests. Check it out. I mean, let me know if it works.
Okay, I'll do that, and I will also connect with you on Twitter.
Sorry.
I will do that, and I will also connect with you on Twitter.
Yeah, you
Maybe I'll
can.
be needing.
You can for sure. Any other questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure. Arpit Singh is asking how to get funding. फंडिंग कुछ बना लो और देखो कौन अलाइन करता है. मतलब देखो फंडिंग भी it's not only one way to get funding. I mean, VC is just one, venture capital is just one way to get funding. There are other grants out there. There is debt. There is like debt is not something I encourage anybody to get into in the earlier stages of company building or project building in general. But there are a bunch of grants like Emerging Ventures, Roddenberry Catalyst Fund. There are a bunch of global fellowships and like this Kothari Fellowship also very newly launched. So there are grants and fellowship opportunities that you can take to experiment with your ideas and probably figure out what works and what doesn't. VC, देखो VC money तब raise होता है when you have some level of traction already. If you're a consumer company, you need to have at least 10,000 users using your product. You need to be in the market for at least 1.5 year, or if you're very insanely fast, then that's another story altogether. But for VC, you need to have considerable level of early stage traction to get money. And for B2B also, you need to have some level of paid POCs and some level of POC revenue coming in before you approach a VC. Otherwise, the VCs are just going to say no to you. They will listen to your pitch because again, it's their job to listen to pitches, but they will not entertain your company. Utna zyada अच्छे से. So VC is just one way of getting money. They're angel investors, people who place their personal conviction and their own money into startups and into founders. That's a way to get. If you can convince somebody to put in money into your company, that's a way. You can ask your. I mean, there's a friends and family round also. We say in startups, where your immediate family, your friends, the people who trust you the most are placing their money and their faith in you as an entrepreneur. So, I mean, many ways to raise money, but for students, I mean, grants and fellowships are the best ways because they are the most de-risk ways of getting money. And you can also experiment stuff while you are not obliterating your parents or your own personal savings. Any other questions?